Here's the paradox nobody warns you about. A woman can preach strength in the daylight and still crave the sanctuary of surrender at midnight, and both can be true. If that sentence made your chest tighten, good. You're closer to a hidden map most men never find. We are not contradictions, we are constellations. And when a man learns to read the sky, we share the secrets we swore we'd never say out loud. Picture this: a quiet apartment, the city murmur fading to velvet. She has spent another day being efficient, articulate, impossible to shake. She signs off the last email, aligns the trophies of productivity on her desk, and still feels a small ache beneath the ribs. Not emptiness, wait. The crown photographs well. It bites the scalp in private. He knows the polished version of her, the woman who carries her life like a well-tailored suit. But he also senses the chapter she keeps pressed flat. Not because he pries, but because his presence is a soft chair at the end of the world. In that chair, performance loosens. She exhales the day she can't explain, and the room becomes safe enough for unscripted truth. Desire rarely walks in a straight line. It curls. It doubles back. It hides behind the slogans we repeat to survive the public square. Jung wrote that we meet ourselves in 1,000 disguises. Desire is one of those disguises. It doesn't announce itself. It knocks softly and waits to be recognized without judgment. She has perfected the language of public strength. He has practiced the language of private safety. Between them, something rare appears: honesty without spectacle. She speaks not because she is pressed, but because she is unafraid. And when truth finally rises to the throat, it is tender, not theatrical. It says, "I am multitudes. Can you hold all of me?" Most men ask for secrets as if cracking a safe. The unforgettable ones become a safe. The test is simple and terrifying: be strong enough to be gentle, and gentle enough to be strong. When she stops performing, don't fill the silence, protect it. Guard it like a candle cupped in wind. If you can do that, you've already stepped into a different league of intimacy. Stay with me. By the end, you'll know how to become the man a woman trusts with her most delicate paradoxes, without manipulation, without pressure, without blurring the sacred line between play and principle. The map is real, and it begins where your ego ends. If you stay until the end, you'll leave with a framework that turns private contradictions into profound connection. Signal safety without extracting confessions. Validate the both without moralizing it. Co-create a container with clear language, rules, and limits, and keep bedroom mythology from contaminating public respect. Think of it as stoicism for the nervous system: stillness, clarity, self-command. First, the relief of being seen without being solved. She whispers, "I'm tired of holding everything." He doesn't sprint toward advice or narrate her life back to her. He asks a quieter question: where is it heavy in your body? She touches her chest. He says, "Let it be heavy here for a moment." You don't have to move it. For the first time all week, her shoulders drop. The pressure doesn't vanish, but the loneliness around it does. Attention, offered steadily, is its own medicine. Marcus Aurelius might call it discipline of perception. See what is without adding panic. Let your calm be furniture. Let your gaze be shelter. The room becomes a chapel, and her truth arrives barefoot. Second, the paradox of power and surrender. A woman can be fiercely autonomous and still crave moments of guided ease. This isn't hypocrisy. It's a nervous system asking for a different song. In the daylight, she leads a meeting that turns a failing quarter. At night, she treasures the sentence, "I've planned something." You don't have to decide a thing. Notice the precision, not control over her, care for her. He doesn't erase agency. He offers respite from decision fatigue. Autonomy and surrender are not enemies. They're alternating currents of the same circuit. Secure attachment allows the oscillation: self-possession in public, restorative softness in private. Predictability and respect create safety. Safety permits softness. Led like a harbor, not a leash. The offer of ease is not a downgrading of her strength. It is a love note written in logistics. When you understand this, you stop confusing dominance with leadership. One seeks compliance, the other creates peace. Leadership that creates peace sounds like, "I handled our reservations." Your only job is to enjoy. It feels like someone finally turned down the world's fluorescent lights. That is the climate where confession and desire can bloom without fear of debt. Mystery, not games. Low reactivity and a life with gravity create natural intrigue. Mystery isn't withholding, it's wholeness that refuses to beg for consumption. He is not chronically unavailable. He is deeply engaged with craft, friendships, training, purpose. When he replies, he is present. When he is absent, it's for reasons that existed before she arrived. She learns the difference between avoidance and absorption. One feels like a power play, the other feels like a man with a center. Desire breeds inside meaningful distance, the kind marked by contour, not coldness. Systems theory says differentiation precedes intimacy. I am me, you are you, therefore we can be us. Collapse that differentiation, overshare too fast, orbit too close, and the spark suffocates. The antidote isn't cruelty, it's a life that doesn't fold just to be liked. Be a whole landscape she can walk through, not an empty hallway that echoes with her footsteps. Then, validation as oxygen, not currency. Affirmation is not bribery, it is nutrition. The problem isn't wanting to hear, you're radiant. The problem is when praise becomes leverage. She asks, how do I look? He doesn't reduce it to vanity or slice it with sarcasm. He meets the human under the question. You look like you slept inside sunlight, he says, and then he keeps it ordinary. No pedestal, no performance. Witnessed beauty, named without theatrics. Intermittent praise used for control makes the ground feel unstable. Consistent, grounded affirmation regulates the system. It lowers threat without creating dependence, so long as your behavior remains steady. Say the true good thing and never invoice her for it later. Hold on to the quiet rules emerging here. Don't hurry her truth. Study the room. Lead with the gift of ease, not the hunger for control. Become a whole life she can visit, not a vacant space that lives for her arrival. Offer praise as nourishment, not as a contract. When these principles thread through your presence, shame loses its favorite hiding place. And when shame retreats, the honest map of desire has space to unfold without breaking anything sacred. If you're ready, the next parts will take us deeper. How attention scarcity fuels attraction without cruelty. How to design language and limits that transform play into safety. And the hinge moment where the private paradox turns into the public respect that makes a bond unbreakable. Every man wants to be desired, but few understand that attention, not affection, is the rarest currency in a woman's world. Everyone gives her opinions, advice, praise, or judgment. Almost no one gives her undiluted presence. When a man finally does, it rearranges her nervous system. She talks, and you don't rush to respond. You don't fill the air with competing stories about yourself. You watch her eyes instead of your phone. You notice the small pauses where she edits her truth before releasing it, and you make those silences safe. In that moment, she realizes she can exist without performing. That realization is addictive. You don't need to be poetic to give this gift. You need to be still. The modern world runs on fragments of attention, but intimacy requires duration. Desire can't survive multitasking. It needs depth, not volume. When you master the art of focused presence, you become gravity in a world of noise. And every orbit eventually returns to gravity. This is what philosophers like Epictetus meant by discipline of perception, controlling what you give your focus to. When you choose to place it on her completely, you give her permission to stop proving and start feeling. The quiet truth is that attention is foreplay to trust. Safety is not softness. It is structure. It is the invisible architecture that lets chaos dance without burning the house down. When a woman trusts that her boundaries will be honored, her desire expands. She tests you with small truths to see if the walls hold. She watches how you respond to discomfort. Do you get defensive, or do you stay grounded? Do you punish honesty with distance, or reward it with calm? Safety means she can contradict herself and still feel wanted. It means she can say, I don't know why I feel this, and not be cross-examined. It means her tears don't become your inconvenience. A safe man doesn't take power away, he gives clarity back. He knows that control without compassion becomes tyranny, and compassion without control becomes chaos. The balance of both is what women describe as masculine energy, not arrogance, but containment. In practical terms, this looks like small consistency. You keep your word. You answer when you say you will. You never weaponize silence. And you never use what she confessed in vulnerability to win a later argument. This reliability becomes erotic because predictability is the soil where surrender grows. And surrender, in its true form, is not weakness, it is a spiritual exhale. Here's the paradox: desire needs air, not ownership. When she doesn't know everything about you, her imagination keeps writing. And imagination is more powerful than information. The man who overshares his emotions too soon, who floods her inbox with every thought, starves her curiosity. The man who reveals himself gradually, not to play games, but because his inner life is rich and full, activates something primal. She leans forward. She studies. She fills the silence with wonder. Mystery is not manipulation. It's rhythm. It's knowing that attraction lives in tension, and tension requires space. You can be fully transparent in integrity while remaining unpredictable in energy. She should trust your moral compass, but never feel like she's seen the final page of your story. That's how kings ruled hearts long before dating apps, through mystery grounded in truth. Remember this: distance creates magnetism only when paired with warmth. Coldness pushes away, centeredness pulls in. You are not a riddle. You are a world that takes time to explore. Every woman carries a secret wish: to meet a man who cannot be consumed in a single sitting. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think desire is about power, about who leads or who follows. But the real revelation is that it's about permission. When a woman feels completely safe, not because you surrendered your authority, but because you earned her trust, she stops censoring the parts of herself she hides even from her friends. The wild, the ambitious, the insecure, the contradictory, all of them show up. That is the moment most men misunderstand. They see it as a reward when it's actually a request. Can you hold my complexity without trying to fix it? If you can, you cross from attraction into devotion. Because what women call chemistry is often the nervous system saying, I'm safe here. I can expand here. That's why she becomes more open, more creative, more sensual, more alive. You didn't make her that way. You simply built a room where she could finally take off the armor. That's what trust really looks like: the invisible undressing of the soul. At this point, the energy between you shifts. She no longer needs to perform perfection, and you no longer need to chase validation. The relationship becomes something sacred, not romantic perfection, but emotional truth. You stop asking, what do women want? And start asking, what version of myself invites truth to stay? Every man wants to be desired. Few want to be worthy of desire. Worthiness isn't about looks or status. It's about consistency, curiosity, and restraint. When you give her the freedom to be contradictory, she rewards you with a kind of loyalty you can't buy. She'll protect your name when you're not in the room. She'll soften her tone when she speaks to you. She'll trust you with the stories that carry her shame and watch closely to see if you judge her. If you don't, she goes deeper. That's the secret nobody teaches, the gateway to the kind of intimacy people write poetry about. Remember how we began. The woman who preaches strength by day and craves surrender by night? She was never a contradiction. She was a spectrum. And so are you. The more you learn to balance gentleness with gravity, confidence with calm, mystery with truth, the more you stop chasing attention and start radiating presence. You become the man she confesses everything to, not because you demand it, but because you've earned the right to hear it. In a world obsessed with noise, you become her silence. In a world built on judgment, you become her sanctuary. And when she whispers her hidden desires into that sanctuary, understand this: she isn't giving you information, she's giving you trust. Handle it like something sacred. Protect it like a vow. Because once you break it, no apology can rebuild the same magic. That's the final truth. Women don't fall for men who promise perfection. They fall for men who make imperfection safe. So when she stops performing, don't fill the silence. Protect it. Because that silence is where love starts breathing.